Hello and welcome. I'm going to be sharing a story of the connection with my body and intuition, something that happened many years ago that was quite interesting, but also touching on the importance of connecting with our body and listening to our body because our body is constantly communicating with us. So many years ago, probably about 5, 6, 7 years ago, I remember I was out on a hike with a dear friend of mine. My friend was very pregnant at this time, I must say. We had 2 dogs with us, and we were in the back country where there were a lot of bears in this area. But in the specific place that we were in was quite more or less safe because there was a lot of foot traffic. However, after a bit of distance, her and I kept going further and further into the depths of the forest. There were cameras that would track the animals as well that we would see every now and then periodically, but we knew that we were going into a little bit of a grizzly territory. They really weren't very prevalent or well seen because of the amount of foot traffic that would go through the area. And just FYI, if you are unfamiliar with bears and bear territory, bears don't necessarily like humans. They like to keep to their own. There are a lot of crossovers with bears on hiking trails where bears will definitely cross through these hiking paths and where people are, but they are very rare to see. And because they also keep to their own. However, this one particular day, my friend and I were out with our dogs and we felt fairly comfortable starting this particular hike. After a certain amount of time, I started to feel really uncomfortable. And I had to check in if it was my fear or if my body was trying to tell me something. And even at that moment in time, I hadn't really been as tuned in with my body as I am now. Even though I was quite tuned in and quite aware, I was actually looking back now very shocked at how strongly my body was trying to say something to me. So we got further and further into the forest, and after a bit of time, I started getting a buildup of resistance to moving forward. I eventually felt within the core of myself, but within my body as a whole, to not proceed, to not move forward. And I had to also check in to make sure that, is it fear? Is my mind playing tricks on me? Or is this actually real? And should we turn around? I told her, yeah, we're good. Right now, we should probably head back. We should probably start to go back, which was fine. Actually, it was a good turning point for us. But I definitely felt very, very strong within myself that it was not safe. So we headed back and we were fine. We didn't see a bear. There were no encounters. But the next day, a man on a mountain bike on that same path got chased down by a grizzly bear. And there were grizzly bears in that vicinity. They were known to be around that area. But again, you're kind of at a little bit of a risk when you go out because you never know if you're going to see one or not. And also two, I was very aware of my mind playing maybe a trick on me. Am I thinking too much? Am I worrying too much? Am I too much in fear? Should I trust? Or is this real? Is it a real thing? Is this actually my body telling me to not move forward? So sure enough, the next day there was someone who got chased down and the whole village was talking about it. And it was exactly in the area that we were in. So yes, my body was definitely trying to say something, but I also want to apply the same connection with the body and how it speaks. That was a more extreme type of example. I mean, there are many different examples to look at with body aches and illnesses, going into the messages from the body, of course, with Dr. Michael Lincoln, going into the unconscious patterns and false beliefs that we have within ourselves that do trip off pains and aches and illnesses within our body, which is very, very real. And it does come from unresolved, unconscious beliefs and memories stored within. However, we also have our intuition and our body that is very much connected. And when we are more tuned in with our body, when we are taking time to connect, when we are turning our busy mind off and tuning in within ourselves, we can create a very powerful connection within our whole being, within all of the aspects of ourselves, our body, our energetic being, our heart, and our mind, and of course our soul, right? So when we are tuned in, we listen very deeply. We can listen very deeply. We can get a sense of ourselves, but this also applies the sensory experience also applies with our interconnectedness with all, with other people, with life itself, with nature, with the cosmos, with the universe, if you will. And it is very, very real. And looking back many years ago, even though I was very intuitive, I was very empathic, I was very, I would say sensitive, I still didn't have the depth of connection that I have now, by far. Because also I've tuned in. I've changed habits within my life. I have dedicated my work to self-discovery, to deepening the connection within my body and consciousness. And as a result, my intuition has grown and my sensory experience has developed immensely. So this other experience that I want to touch on has to do with the future. When we are about to step into a new level of being, into a new level of havingness, into a new level of manifestation, into a new experience altogether, maybe a new relationship or something that is going to shake us out of where we have been, the Tower card in the tarot, if you are familiar. Our bodies will react because our bodies also, when we arrive in a multidimensional aspect of our being and when we can connect with the dimensions of life, then our bodies will give us clues as far as what's coming up. So if you have been working towards change in your life, if you have been manifesting, if you've been healing, if you've been transforming, if you've been working with the unconscious, if you've been tapping into and connecting with your future reality, you are going to definitely run into some of these, I would say, challenges or pitfalls within your mind-body connection, or even within the connectedness with your body, because your body is going to sense first. Your intuition is, of course, going to sense first, but your body and your intuition are working in tandem. So your heart, of course, also senses things beforehand. Your body, of course, is tuned in with that. So you have a whole network of incredible intelligence within you that you are connected with. And the more connected that we become with our intelligence, our whole intelligence, our body intelligence, of course, the mind, I mean, that is part of our analytical world. But what about our spiritual intelligence? What about, of course, the emotional intelligence? What about our body intelligence? What about combining it all together into wholeness of intelligence and connectedness? And when we are connected with that, when we are connected with the sensory experience of our whole intelligence, our intelligent being that we are, then we will be able to understand what is coming in the future and what our body is trying to adjust to, what our body is trying to prepare for. And from our unconscious, unresolved false beliefs, such as fear, our body is going to signal based on those unconscious beliefs as well. So if we are afraid of the future, if we've had bad things happen to us in the past, which pretty much is all of us, then there are going to be most likely unresolved unconscious patterns that will get tripped off just before we are stepping into a new level of being, into a new level of life. And this can show up in many different forms. And that is why the connectedness with ourselves is so important. When we are about to step into a new level, when we are about to step into a new life experience, when we are about to step into a new level of ourselves, of manifestation, etc., as I mentioned, then yes, our body is going to send signals. You may all of a sudden get very tired. You may all of a sudden have an emotional meltdown. You may all of a sudden have overthinking, over-ruminating. There may be self-sabotage coming in to try to prevent you from going into the unknown, into a different way of being, into a new level of experience, and into the future. Because we are creating the future in our present moment constantly. And when we are in I called it the dip in a previous video, when we are feeling our way through this and moving into a new level of being and into a new future, then of course we're going to run into these barriers. Of course we are going to run into unconscious fears. Our stomach might feel ill. We might all of a sudden sleep a lot and not want to get up and feel motivated. I mean, it can come in so many different symptoms, but fear will definitely become tripped. Definitely. Because we have fear within our unconscious self. And so how do we move through it? Well, the first one is going to be observation, really tuning in with our body, because our body is trying to tell us something. Our body is trying to tell us that we are moving forward. We are moving towards a new experience, towards a new level of being, towards everything I just mentioned already. And then our unconscious self will say, well, but what if something bad happens? What if there's danger? What if I lose everything? What if it gets taken away? What if I run into a problem, etc.? And so there's going to be a bit of a wrestling between these energies and notions within ourself. The body is adjusting and preparing. So is your unconscious. So is your mind. So everything is adjusting and changing. So all of these aspects within you are adjusting and changing to a new way of being, to your future, to yourself, to align with who you truly are. But then your unconscious, your false beliefs, these patterns that have been developed since formative years, are going to come in and basically interrupt the change of events because it is unfamiliar. It feels scary. We don't know where we're going. We don't know what it feels like to be a new version of ourselves. So there's going to be this constant wrestling between our false beliefs, our false programs that are going to show up in our body, and a new way of being. So you can almost think of this, everything is energy, right? And when we have fear coming in or disrupting our flow, or disrupting our body, it's going to come in as a sickness, an illness, an ache, something of discomfort. Could come in as a mental activity as well. The ego, the fear-based ego, can definitely come in and create a lot of stories, a lot of anger, a lot of frustration, a lot of ruminating, overthinking about our current situation, about life, or about our future. And so awareness is going to be the biggest part of this, is seeing what is my ego, or what are my false beliefs trying to tell me? What is my body trying to tell me? And how can I drop into more trust? How can I let go of this energy? Because it's going to come in as something very tense, something maybe very dense. How can I let it go and open up for more trust? It's almost like a muscle. When everything gets really tense, there's a lot of energy built up, can create almost like a knot or tension or discomfort. It's because it's like really aggravated. There's a lot of tension there, and we hold on to it because it becomes familiar and because there's fear. So we're holding on. It's a form of control. It's a form of safety. But what if we let it go? What if we just let it go and trusted ourselves in that very moment, and tune in with our body to notice the energy that we're holding on to so tightly. If it is within our gut, our stomach, if it is within a certain part of our body, and let it go and move into trust and let go of the pressure, let go of the stress, differentiate what are the false beliefs that have been part of my programming my entire life that are repeating and repeating, because those are patterns and we can break them. It takes some time and work, but the more awareness we can develop with these cycles and with these patterns, the more we will separate from them. We will let them go and form new pathways towards more trust and a greater future. I just had this happen to me the other day, where my ego, fear-based ego, came in so strong, so stubborn, was so hard on life, so hard on myself, angry and frustrated. It took a lot of wrestling, ego wrestling, to move away from it and to let go and to trust and to find peace. The practice of the present moment is going to be essential for this work. Feeling into the present moment and finding peace right in that exact moment in time. So remember, your body is constantly communicating with you, especially through this process. And you are developing greater awareness. You are a conscious, aware being. So use that to your advantage through this practice. The more awareness that you can cultivate with your body, then you're going to find the origin of the fears and what is truly happening within yourself, the conscious versus the unconscious self. And you're going to bridge more awareness, cultivate greater awareness within the unconscious to move towards greater sense of self, wholeness, authenticity, self-actualization, and put yourself on a pathway towards the future that you are desiring, towards a future that you are in alignment with. Right? We have to go through these little barriers and our body is going to resist it. There's also going to be a differentiation between fear and intuition and the body. There is a very fine line between the two. We can find ourselves making decisions or feeling certain ways based on fear versus what truly feels right within ourselves, within our heart. And fear comes in the way of resistance. It comes in the way of second guessing. It comes in the way of apprehension. It comes in the way of control. It comes in the way of anger. It's very resistive. And it also comes in the way of repetition. Our intuition, our true self, knows the way, even if it is difficult, even if we have to do something that may feel like a setback or something that we are afraid of doing, but we know in our heart it might be the right way. That's when you know to follow your heart and to listen to your body. In this lifetime, we are here to break patterns. We are here to break cycles. And if we don't, we're just going to have to come back and repeat them and do them again. So this is a time where we get to break them. And speaking from experience, breaking these cycles are extremely liberating. It is sometimes the hardest work that we could ever do. It feels like it. But the more that we work through this and the more that we open our levels of consciousness and awareness towards ourselves, because this is our inner journey, 100%, the path that we are on is all about this. The external is the byproduct of this. The more connected that we can be within ourselves, within this, then that is going to show us the result. The outer world is going to reflect what we have addressed within here. So I'm wishing you all the best during this time and beyond, and I look forward to seeing you again very soon.